Hi there everyone and welcome to the Green Room podcast, where we interview the leading lights of Manx drama and get their thoughts, experiences on their life on and off the island, as is definitely taken up by our two guests today. And we have with me Anne Howard, Leah Carter and Tony Eccles.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Well, I suppose the obvious place to start with this one, John, as it's ever, is perhaps take a look at the pair of you and just say, where did you start out then? So you sort of suggesting, obviously, you've both done some sort of professional training, have been to college to do it. Where did your dramatic life start out there?
Well, I started dancing, I'd say, I don't know, age of 5, something like that, at a little school in Laxey. And then kind of progressed from there to, I went to Stage 1 drama school, had private lessons, and then was lucky enough to win the Young Actor of Man award when I was 13. I think I was one of the youngest, or the youngest Young Actor of Man. And then I was lucky enough to win it again the next year, which then sort of propelled me on to want to do it as a career. So I left the island at 16 and went to a school called Arts Ed, which they offer kind of like a secondary school, kind of, it's what institution, secondary school that offers musical theatre training as well. So I went there at 16 and then it kind of all took off from there, really. And then, so after that, I went on to do a degree in musical theatre at PPA, which is another a college in Guildford, Surrey. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
How about you, Tony? So that should have been part of my introduction there, the useless introducer that I am, pointing out that you are both past winners of the Young Actor of Man, which is a key part of the Manx Amateur Drama Federation. Yeah.
I'm the only one who isn't. I feel a bit...
well, young, yeah. Still young.
Well, I didn't win it even when I was young, but yes, you're absolutely right.
And it's a fantastic achievement, and for both of you, sorry, Tony, I've cut you off a little bit
there,
but so how because the Young Actor Man was a real starting point for both of you. So Tony,
hugely. I didn't know anything about it, so my first steps into acting and performing were completely kind of by accident. So I did, when I was young, I always enjoyed doing it, but it was never a primary focus or something that my family really pushed me into. It was just something that I enjoyed. I was always like into sports. Sports was my thing. Played probably every sport under the sun when I was a kid. And then I started to kind of slowly get into it. I did a couple of youth arts things here, there and everywhere. And then I did, so my first school production was Candles at Ballacombe High School. And I kind of auditioned on a whim because loads of people were like, oh yeah, audition. And then I just kind of did it, got one of the leads, and then, well, one of the kind of principals, if you will. And then through doing that, it just so happened that in the next couple of months after the production, the Hammond School came over and they did a workshop. And then from there, they saw me in the workshop and offered me a full scholarship. And the rest of my kind of journey is, kind of history. It kind of set me off for there. But in the gap in between, because I'd done Candles, the director was Chris Mabry, writer-director, and he said, oh, you should go into this acting competition. And I was like, what? I didn't know there was such things that happened on the island. He said, yeah, you should use one of the monologues in that. So from there, I was like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no clue. I just kind of read the words in an accent or however I did it. There wasn't any skill behind it. So I went to Jackie Black.
At the time.
Jackie Black at the time. Jackie Hawks. And so I had a few one-to-one classes with her, and that kind of got me into the Young Actor of Man. Yeah. And again, had absolutely no clue what I was doing. I was just having a laugh, and luckily won. And again, the rest is
I was there. I don't think it was luck, any luck about it. No, it's amazing moments, and please don't take this wrong with me. I'm not trying to blow smoke, but it was one of those moments of seeing someone, because I'd never seen you act before. I'd never been at that moment. The amazing raw talent that literally just turned up, bang, first time you'd ever done in a competition, and away you went. And it was one of those moments you could see that that's it. That's a professional actor right there. Someone that will go on and do amazing things. I had no bones about losing to you that year at all.
That's really nice to hear.
It was an incredible moment. I'm sorry, Leah, I didn't get to see you perform, but
no.
I'm sure it was equally stunning.
It was okay.
Oh, that's 2 years in a row. I mean, that's something that's never been done by anyone else,
no,
even since.
No. Yeah.
In all the history, and we were talking just before we came on air about how the amazing list of names and what that competition does for people, and what that then that stepping stone, and that's part of what we're here to record. Just this was a starting point for you, Tony, in particular, and you, Leah, as well, because this was the point that then. Was there something in it for you that then thought, well, I can then go on and do this?
Well, I think
a little bit more than just a hobby.
Yeah, well, winning, you kind of, the prize, if you will, is to go away to a drama school or a summer camp or something that's theatre based in the UK. And luckily enough, sort of winning it twice, I sort of asked and said, would it be okay if potentially I went to where I want to train for a week? So they allowed me to go to Arts Ed for a week and do like a summer school there. And then it opened my eyes then to how amazing the school was. So if it wasn't for, Mad for allowing me to do that, I might not have gone, or even gone to the Hammond or trained somewhere else or whatever. But it was just so kind of them to be able to allow me to go somewhere different, because obviously we've won it twice, and I don't think that's been done before. Or done again.
It hasn't been done before or since. It's an amazing achievement. So you both went off to drama school. What did that then lead to afterwards? I know you're both back here now, but there were roles and amazing careers that you had while you were across.
I mean, yeah. So, how many? 10 plus between us. We've got 2 decades of experience in.
Well,
London.
you're a lot older than me, Tony.
There it is. There's the first one. Okay.
Subtly pushed.
Well, but okay, we've got each of us has over 10 years experience in London in the industry.
Yeah.
Working.
I think Tony you worked more than I did. And you kind of branched off and did the kind of acting for screen side of things, and
well, I never ventured into musical theatre, which it seems like
it's a different world. Really,
we've shared our experience about just how you're treated, how you're treated in an audition, how your agent looks after you, how you're perceived in the industry, how one job is maybe just like for a screen actor, or where I was predominantly kind of my career was focused. You could have one day of work on set, and that could make a year's work. That would be like, wow, you did that one day. Whereas you could be working 6, 12 months, a 2-year cruise or a tour, and that's still one line on the CV. It's still one job, whether it was a one-line part in this TV series or an advert or a commercial of whatever brand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it still equals one line of the CV, so it's such a different perspective on how you look. So I could look like I've done loads in 1 year, but someone else could have just done one job for a year, and it would still
in musical theatre.
And it would just look completely different. And the same with plays as well.
Do you find was it all in-person auditions, or were you doing things remotely? Because I know people who are looking for things now. There was someone I was talking to who's across Europe. There was an advert for an Amazon commercial, and it was covering the whole of Europe, and you just registered and you recorded it at home and sent it all in. Yeah,
you've got quite a lot of experience, Tony, with self-tapes and all that kind of stuff.
The industry massively changed. I mean, and then it changed even more so when the COVID pandemic was happening, but it was already on the verge of changing about a year or two up to that, of casting directors realised that rather than having a 10, 15-minute slot with an actor in a room and seeing them there live and having to book out a studio for these actors to come
all the expenses,
to all the expenses of central London and casting booths and all that sort of stuff, and then recording them in the room to then send off and have to look back at later. We might as well get these actors who all have wonderful cameras on their mobile phones, or
all you need is a blank wall, some natural light,
webcams on their computer to send in the audition that they would already have done in the room. They've already got it. And then it also saves a lot of time for a casting director. If you're looking, instantly whether you want to see more of this person or not within the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, saves
so it saves them having to sit through them doing the scene and them having, can you try it a bit more like this and then try it like this? And whereas actually you can just fast forward, go, no, it's not what we're looking for, next, no. And you can whittle down.
So how did you find that's very much the screen side of it. How did you find the musical theatre? Because that's more your area.
That's where I trained. So all my auditions, predominantly like 2 auditions, were in person. And sort of when you get to sort of the final rounds for sort of big shows, you have a massive panel on the right in front of you, and it can be quite daunting. And what we spoke about a bit about how people are treated sort of differently in each field. I can remember I was in the finals for Les Mis, and I had about, I don't know, I'd say about 15 to 20 people in front of me on a massive panel, all just like talking amongst themselves, not listening to me sing at all. I get to the money note, they all look up, and then back down to talking to each other, and then thank you, off you go. You know, it's kind of, it's a reality check, isn't it? Where you go, I'm pretty much a number here. Like, you're not. I mean, I hope it's changing, but you know, when I was auditioning, that was kind of how it was.
And that's...
Well, I've had some person actually turn around in the audience and say to this friend, that's rubbish. While I'm actually on stage at the Gaiety. So maybe it's just trying to prepare you for a life on stage.
Maybe.
Not at all. I'm sure they wouldn't be saying that's about you
Maybe.
in any way.
I don't know.
There's a very funny story of a friend
So
of
what
mine.
sort of shows did you do that you, because you talked about you went for an audition with Les Mis. What other shows did you do while you were down there?
Well, I predominantly did, things like, not easy gigs, because they're not easy at all to get, but like things like panto, things that I could get, I knew were going to make me money over the Christmas period, things like that. Had a lot of auditions, a lot of close calls, but didn't work really masses. But I've got no regrets. It sounds cringy, but I'm so proud of myself that I just went and did it, you know, and had the guts to go and give it a really, really good go. Yeah. And when I moved back, I was kind of like, you know, I've done that, you know, and I really don't have any regrets.
Never look back, and you won't get to the, you know, later on in life and think, you know, I should have had a crack at that, but you know you've had
absolutely,
you've had that go, which makes a big difference.
And that's the thing.
There was a funny story looking there.
Just a friend of mine tells this great anecdote of when he was doing this kind of songs from the war around the nursing homes, and he comes out opening number. Comes out in this nursing home, roll out the barrel, and this woman just turns to a friend and go, "Oh, isn't he awful?" And you know, in an audience of like these 12, and he's just going, "Oh, I've got an hour set to do, and this is the first number." And it's one of those stark realities, much like yourself, where you just go, That's where the professionalism kicks in of. Just ignore it. Just carry on. Just
you're singing for that one person in the back that's paid their money.
But
We've
it's
all
a
done
good
shows
point
to 6
in
people.
as much as you're saying, the professionalism. I think we've all had, you know, as John was saying as well, whether amateur or whatever, where you got someone within earshot saying, "Oh God, this is how long have we got?" What would you say though, having seen both sides of the coin, which obviously a lot of people, you know, who tread the boards at the Gaiety and have done perhaps Amdram for 30, 40 years, never actually had a go at being professional. What is the big gulf, do you think? How would you describe someone who's not done it, the gulf between doing it professionally and doing it perhaps at a high level or at a regular level as an amateur?
That is a really, really good question. I'm going to need a little bit.
Well, I'd say that the quality, and it's something that we've noticed, if you hope you don't mind me saying, that you are the future of Manx drama. That it's that's what we've had a whole number of different people on the podcast, all with different experiences. But the thing that comes through is the quality of drama that we have here, and we really punch well above our weight to the people
massively.
that we can put through. You look at Sam Barks, look at both of you. You look at Joe Locke. That people who go away and acting is so hard to make that, and it comes down to luck, if nothing else. I mean,
I was just about to say that
it's opportunity.
It's luck and. You know, I was never great at, you know, what's it called, the networking side of things and being at the right place, the right time. And I also think, you know, being away from home massively hindered me, I think. You know, missing my family, it's a whole different world, isn't it, in London? If people, you know, I had friends from drama school who had so much support around them, you know, their family was, I don't know, an hour's train ride away and they could just go and see them whenever they wanted. But I didn't necessarily have that. So I think if I'd had a more of a support network around me, I probably would have felt that urge to keep going, maybe. But I don't know, it's just so hard. Like I can't even explain how hard it is.
We've got a massive kind of advantage, if you will, for our amateur scene over here, but it's a disadvantage when you look at professional work, in that anywhere else, if you were living in England, if you had a call from your agent and saying you've got an audition at 10 o'clock, you can jump on a train, get down into town, get to your audition with plenty of time and do the audition and be flexible with travel and where you stay, or stay overnight at a friend's or a hostel or a hotel or whatever, or get a train back. If you get a recall, train down the next morning. Whereas you can't do that from the Isle of Man.
No.
It was one of the things that when I first moved back, I was like, oh, well, I'll just be able to just flit across. And you realise that there might not be a plane, or there might not be a boat that early, or you with the kind of last minute, how very last minute the industry is I'll get an email at 6 o'clock in the evening to say I've got an audition at 9 o'clock the next day. Here's 5 pages you need to learn.
Yeah, and that does happen.
That is so
get
often
sent
the case.
songs last minute. Can you learn this for the next morning? And you might be at your bar job like, oh, I can't.
Yeah, I've got a shift, or
Yeah.
I need to quit. I've got a shift at 10. I need to switch that around with someone. I think going back to your question, Howard, that is the big difference. That is the really big difference that separates an amateur performer, if that isn't too much of a title to say, between all the people who are working across as professionals, is the time that you get to be able to deliver a performance. You put a show on, a professional show, musical or
4
play,
weeks.
4 weeks, and you're expected to be off book at the start of rehearsals, and that could be 2 weeks after you were told you got the job.
Yeah.
And it has to be ready to go, absolute top standard in 4 weeks. We over here in the kind of the amateur scene, obviously everyone has day jobs, everyone has a life,
6 months, isn't
family. You have three times a week over 6 month period to get better and get better and get better of just doing it over the same dance routine over to hone it, to get the steps right.
So without it being too loaded a question then, which do you both prefer?
I think for me, the sort of when it's your job and you have that pressure that you have to pay the bills and you have to pay your rent, and I really need this audition. So much is relying on it. It does take the fun out of it. And I stopped performing and auditioning quite a bit before I moved back to the Isle of Man. I teach now instead. And so moving back, doing it amateurly, is it the right word? I got my love back for it because, and to be with people who equally love it as much as you do, and they learn from you, you learn from them, and you build friendships. And for me, that's what it's about now.
Well, finding that love for it.
It's
one
the
of the
love
things
for
that
it
I have to
now.
confess, when I made that decision, do I go to drama school or do I not? And it was actually the week at drama school that someone said to me that, obviously, as you mentioned before, if you win the Young Actor Man, you get sent away and you get a week at drama school of your choice.
Yeah.
And someone said that to me and said it was, if you're going to do it, you've got to make sure, and you can take some of the love out of it, because for each of those you had parts to learn, and it was almost giving you that little taster.
Hugely, and with
strong backbone as well.
Yeah.
I can't take it
oh
anymore.
all the rejection. Like it's 99% of the time it's a no.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it.
And going to yourself, it's just because I wasn't right for that part. It's not that I'm no good. I'm just as good as whoever got the role, but they just weren't looking. Maybe it was my hair colour, or there's loads of other factors, isn't there, around it.
The producer's nephew comes in.
Exactly.
Oh, it happens.
And that's just on the Isle of Man. But to bring it back, so you both mentioned that you're actually working on production. Sorry, just pick up on your point there. So you're teaching pupils now. Is there ever a thought that you could then pass that on and get pupils now to then follow what you've done through the Young Actor of Man and into? Absolutely,
yeah. So I teach all aspects of musical theatre now, and I teach privately as well. I teach private singing, and I have had some students go away and get into performing arts schools fairly recently, which is amazing. So I'd like to think that I can pass on my knowledge, but I don't want to scare them either. I don't want to go, oh gosh, this is what it's like, because everyone has to find out for themselves. And when I went at 16, I was quite naive and I didn't know all the ins and outs, but that's what makes you brave and makes you carry on. So, it would be wrong of me to say to them, to divulge all the, oh gosh, this happens and this happens, because the industry is ever changing as well. It's not the same as when I was auditioning, but I'd like to think that I can provide them with that bit of, a backbone as well. I'm quite honest with my feedback. I don't kind of sugarcoat things as well.
What about you, Tony? Have you got that same sort of reinvigoration again? You're teaching again, you're performing again over here. Have you sort of connected with your original love for the theatre?
It's just back one to one.
Both of us have just we haven't stopped, and I think that's because it's our choice. When you get an email from your agent saying this is the job, oh, I don't fancy doing that one. No, you go. You have to go. You have to do it, and unless you're a vegan and it's for a McDonald's advert, for example. Like, there are certain allowances for that sort of thing. But I don't particularly like that style of musical. No, tough. Like, it's a job. That's the job. You know, you have to do it, and it's doing things that you love or you enjoy or that excite you or move your needle, if for a better phrase, that really, actually, I'd really like to do that. That sounds like a lot of fun. And just to go back onto that, my career over there was based on, a couple of lines in this, a scene in this, a day here, a little bits here and there. Whereas over here, you get to full length plays or full musicals or being the lead or one of the principal roles, and it's such a great fun and great to do a whole show that you would never even potentially be seen for in the professional world. You've done all this training and you've got all this experience, so you want to really take on these big roles and these big challenging parts.
More opportunity now, I guess.
Yeah, and in the professional world, until you get to that level of acclaim or fame or in the industry, or you get a good agent that can get you in to be seen for those roles, it's you are picking at scraps to build a life and a career for yourself. And unfortunately, when that pays the bills, you are really fighting for that little gig or that little extra advantage.
So what's you mentioned just before we came on, sorry I cut you off there.
No, not at all.
On what you've got planned in the near future, because some interesting, exciting plans you were telling just before you came on air.
Really, really exciting.
But Tony and I are stepping over to the creative side of things. I know.
I know.
Yeah. So we're joining All Ireland Theatre Company and putting on High School Musical in August 2024. So I'm going to be predominantly choreographing the show, and Tony's sort of creative assistant, so kind of floating between directing and choreographing and
the design and
everything else. But yeah, it's really exciting. It's going to be a really high energy, crazy show.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, and we get the opportunity to kind of produce it in our own way.
Yeah,
you've gone completely to the other side.
I know.
Now you're saying you could be that person that sits and reads and whatever other people are obviously learning from.
I'll be talking through all the auditions.
Absolutely not. And I think
next.
Yeah, exactly. Through having that experience, and through being the person auditioning, now we get to be on the other side of that. We get to
I'd like to think that makes us better. Yeah, like a better person on the panel. Yeah, more compassionate, definitely.
And understanding what they need, and it's not necessarily a blank poker face or a stern. Well, we must mutter to ourselves.
Yeah,
and, we're actually take your time. If you need anything, just let us know.
And
any
it is
questions.
for young people as well, isn't it? Yeah. So it's teenagers, and that's obviously my area of expertise. I love working with children and teenagers. Yeah. So it's going to be really fun, along with Olivia Landals as well, who's directing.
Yeah. So
who knows whether there'll be a future young actor of man or a future star that you find through that, and you can support them through that journey.
And that putting on a show whilst also kind of teaching them about the rehearsal process and what
it's a learning experience as well as just going stand there, do this.
Yeah, we wanted to make it not only fun and have different workshops and ways of accessing the script and the themes in the show itself. So not just learn the lines, stand there, move over here kind of thing. We wanted to make it a different, more engaging experience for them. So we've set up lots of different workshops of them or things that they will be doing in the show that they can kind of use and access while putting on the show to create different motifs and different things together, rather than just this is the steps because this is what we're choreographed. They have their own kind of creative input on that and the process, so they get a lot more ownership. And I think with them being so young, the learning process of how a rehearsal process is so vital, because you don't know. I mean, as a child, you go along with how things are normally done. So to have a completely different way or style of doing things will give them an experience to go, oh, actually, that works better for me. Or, I mean, we've talked about learning lines and how each of us attack a script differently. And it's just shedding light on another option, going, well, this could work for you. If it doesn't, you can go back to doing the old way. But if you like this, and here's something
doing
different.
that in a safe environment that perhaps they wouldn't get and have the benefit of your experience.
Exactly.
So whilst this might, we've been asking everyone that's come onto our podcast just to say what their favourite production, I might have already answered it if you just say this is the show you're putting on, but what your favourite production is, always been, or if it's not the same, what you would do as if you had one show left that you could do, what it would be.
Oh my goodness.
Your desert island show to do.
I think in training I was in Spring Awakening, which was like a dream for me. I can't see it being done on the Isle of Man just because of the sort
we're
of,
on the desert island. It's fine.
Yeah, that is true.
Right.
There's got quite a few risque themes.
Excellent.
Yeah, a little bit of nudity in there as well, so maybe
I think
not.
it's sold very well.
Potentially, yeah. But I'd say that's probably my favourite show. What was the other question?
What you do again? If you could do one play again, if it's that one, or whether there's
or maybe something a high spot of it.
I'd say The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I love that show. That was a great one, wasn't it?
It was. It was indeed. Yeah, mine would be, if I had to do a show again, it would be Parade, which I did as a graduation show at Hammond. Again, I don't see it going down well over here.
Risque themes.
It's a very, very, very amazing.
It's quite
musical.
dark, isn't it?
It's dark. It's challenging, but
it's just been on Broadway.
It's just been
closed on Broadway.
It's so beautiful, and if anyone listening has ever heard of it, go and listen to the soundtrack. It's some of the most beautiful, heart-wrenching music you'll ever hear, and the story's fantastic. It's what I would call a proper. Here we go. Sorry,
it gets all
proper musical. Like it's a story through song, not here's a break while we sing and dance for a little bit, and we go back to. It's a story through the song, and it's insane. I love it. And then I've always wanted to play John Proctor in The Crucible. Always.
That's a very challenging
always,
part.
Always.
Yeah.
I think I'm still a little bit too young, so if anyone's thinking of doing it, if they could put it off for a few years, that'd be great. But I've always wanted to play that role.
It was done over here years ago, but it hasn't been done for a long time, I don't think.
There was a fantastic production of it at the National. Showed it on the live streaming.
Yeah.
We saw it. I actually saw it. It's amazing. The water at three sides all coming down. It narrowed towards the back of the stage. It's amazing production.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. Amazing production.
I've not seen it.
Essentially both of you have gone for really challenging theatre, something that's not you don't want the light stuff. It's all about the challenge.
Absolutely.
And
We love a bit of dark.
You can get involved in and really get to grips with the part.
But we've always said this. I mean, we like being pushed as performers. Like,
well, the next role for me is my biggest challenge. It's probably crazy. It's just a crazy thing. I'm doing a Vita with the Douglas Choral Union, so that's going to be my biggest challenge, I think.
I mean, it's the biggest female lead role.
Yeah,
like,
it's a massive
vocally,
thing.
and it's.
But I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Like Tony said, love being pushed, love being stretched to your
stretched to your limits.
Exactly. Yeah.
Seeing what you can do and going outside your comfort zone as well. I'm one of the people who I don't know if I can play that part,
but I'll give it a good go.
In which case, I'd like to try and see if I can, rather than
doing it in something like the Gaiety with the environment and the setting. It's very rare. I mean, even if you go to London, in some of the theatres there, they're not a patch on that.
Oh, it's just beautiful, isn't it? It's one of a kind. It feels like home. Whenever I walk into the Gaiety, everyone knows the smell. Like, it's got a specific smell, doesn't it? And for me, that's like the smell of excitement. I know that sounds so weird.
No, I know.
Mixed with hairspray. I
think anyone who's done it will know exactly.
Hairspray and sweat and all sorts.
It depends if you're upstairs or down and down, right down, touching the back into the drum stream and everything.
I thought they'd sorted that out.
That's part of the charm. That's the point. But it's.
I think the Gaiety Theatre is one of the catalysts for why we have such a incredible kind of we're churning out incredible talent year on year out.
We could talk for hours, I must admit, about this. There's so much, and maybe we'll do another round again, perhaps another
That's
time.
the whole idea of the Green Room podcast.
It's terrific, but it's wonderful. Great to talk to you. Great to hear some of your recollections and get that feeling again of people who have been working on both sides of the fence, as it were, are professionally and amateur. And we're very pleased that you're here, bringing your skills to the Isle of Man and encouraging others to get involved as well. It's just great. And as John was saying, I think it's just onwards and upwards from here. So particularly with folk like you around, I think we're in a healthy state from that point of view. So thanks very much indeed, the pair of you, for dropping into the Green Room to chat to John and I today.
No, thank you. It's
Thank
been
you
an
so
absolute
much.
pleasure.